The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to Just the Facts on Kamen Rider Dragon Knight Episode 4, A Rider's Challenge.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
Kit and Batman emerge from a glass door after their fight, and we finally get some plot details that are pretty vitally important to this story. Batman's name is Len, and his rider designation is Kamen Rider Wing Knight. He and the other original Kamen Riders are protectors of the world called Ventara that exists behind the reflective surfaces and mirrors. The advent decks for the riders were stolen and are being given to people on Earth. Len explains that now that Kit is Dragon Knight and has been seen fighting alongside him, the other new riders are going to likely start coming after him. Just like Kamen Rider Incisor, who, yes, is named in this episode, despite the previous episode being titled with his name. The two of them hear the mirror shimmers and head to Ventara to fight a centipede monster, winning through with their two final vents. Meanwhile, at the bookstore, Maya is annoyed because her editor did not believe her story and has assigned her to work with a more professional and experienced reporter, Michelle Walsh. Does Way Above Top Secret pay? They paint Michelle Walsh as this professional quality reporter, but everything else about WayAboveTopSecret.com paints it as this internet live journal type blog.
Who knows? Not me. Who cares? Ditto mark.
Richie whines to Connors right after the audience is reminded that Connors is Purple Monster McGee. Kid is in his apartment above the basketball arena studying his cards. Richie waits for a bus after his motorcycle was repossessed, and Len walks around the city when they all hear the shimmering noise and head to Ventara. Meanwhile, Michelle and Maya interview the electrician from a previous episode, but Michelle rudely and annoyingly dismisses his claims. Kit runs up as Len emerges from Ventara, saying he took care of whatever it was. Kit gets frustrated and demands some details about what's going on, which Len provides. He then sees Richie looking for them, and the two hide for some reason. Len explains to Kit that Richie is Kamen Rider Incisor and that he's able to sense that because of reasons. On some elevated walkways high up on a building, Kit confronts Richie, and then Len shows up coming up from behind. But when Richie pokes them about having to gang up on him, Len takes the bait, challenging Richie to a one-on-one.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No, I don't think so.
The two transform and head to Ventara, with Kit just watching in the window from Earth. They have a nice back and forth fight, and both of them use their final vents, with Incisor seeming to come out on top. But then he straight up dissolves. Just 100%, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Len returns to Earth and explains to Kit that Richie has been vented. When Kamen Riders are defeated, they are sent to the Advent Void, an inescapable dimension, so it's kind of like dying. Len leaves and Kit walks away, but we see that someone on a red motorcycle is watching him. Kit seems to try and quit being Dragon Knight, putting the deck away in a drawer. But when he hears the mirror shimmers, he can't stay away, grabbing the deck and heading right back to Ventara. We see the man on the red motorcycle one more time, and he pulls out a green bull-themed Advent deck. Let's deal the cards. Episode 4. A Rider's Challenge. Pros, exciting fight sequences, finally some plot details, and threading to the next story. Cons, 2 annoying characters, anticlimax for Richie, and Kit's meekness. A lot more happened, and I'd say we're back to form. A Rider's Challenge gets 4 cards out of 5. There are a couple of really good fights in this episode. Kit and Len fighting the centipede monster, and then Kit fighting Richie. The latter fight especially really earns the weight that it has, as in Sizer's rather quick, I'll be getting to that, defeat. It goes back and forth, and we get a few indications that Len may not be the one that actually wins. I also really love how venting is something that was barely even hinted to before it happens to Richie. We feel Kit's shock about it right alongside him. I've praised the slow drip of this story in the past, but I think I had forgotten just how slow it was in the early going. To have a primary character, the secondary protagonist, not even have a name through 3 episodes was getting to be a little insane. I feel like this story had hit a breaking point. You were either going to provide the audience some of the key background details of the plot, or people were going to start losing interest. So, to finally get details like Len's name, where the riders come from, etc., good. And when you have this deeper, heavier episode where a writer is defeated and removed from the story, you could excuse them taking the next episode as a little comedic break, a little lighthearted story. Maybe they introduce a new weapon or something. That's not happening. One writer out, another writer right in. It just shows you that for the most part, this is how things are going to go plot-wise, point to point to point. So, of course, Richie carries over into this episode, so we already had one annoying character, but in this episode, we get annoying characters in both plots with the introduction of Michelle Walsh. Now, I will hint to you all that there's a bit more going on with Michelle than we can tell right now, but at this point in the story, she's just snobby and irritating, so it doesn't really matter at the moment. This is kind of a given, and Sizer really feels like the first boss in a video game. You know, the one that can't really hurt you. It just lets you learn the controls and the maneuvers that you need to fight bosses. But to have Incisor basically dead this quickly feels really anticlimactic. It really kind of hurts the story going forward, at least for the moment. How tough can the other riders be if this is how quickly Incisor was defeated? This is going to be an ongoing theme for this show, and it's actually something I kind of enjoy from time to time. But this show that is called Kamen Rider Dragon Knight really doesn't always focus too much on Dragon Knight himself. Kit transforms once in this episode for a really quick fight. The rest of the episode features Len and Richie, with Kit just kind of standing on the sidelines. It does factor into things later on, it's just something I find interesting right now. Certainly not a perfect episode, but a better one. We're getting a little bit more of the plot, including Len's name and rider designation, finally. It is still a bit of a drip feed, but I think they're handling it well. This can be the best way to slowly bring a story along. Speaking of which, let's take a peek at the 5th episode of Dragon Knight, The Power of Two. Kit begins to doubt his role as a Kamen Rider after Incisor's venting, while a new rider starts watching him. But is he friend or foe? That is going to do it for another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it, down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, you can check me out on Patreon, or Ko-fi, or Teespring, and get yourself some sweet Orange Ranger merch. Until next time, heroes, may the power of the cards protect you. The advent decks for the riders were stolen and are being given to people on Earth. And it is a one-way trip with no escape, so it is as unto death. You could understand if they took the next episode as a little lighthearted. I love how I didn't rehearse that, and I was still kind of was... You know, the one that can't really hurt you and it's just letting you learn the controls and maneuvers that you need to defeat them. But when you have